We still don't know the extent of the damage.
We haven't been able to get through to anyone since the explosion. What about Oma? What happened to her? What was that sound?
Hello everyone, Connor here with another crap on deck. I know, so soon. After playing through Fear, I decided to jump into the first expansion, Extraction Point. Extraction Point released in 2006, and if you're worried about story, don't. Neither this game nor the standalone Perseus Mandate are canonical to the Fear plot thanks to Fear 2. Not that it matters, because who really cares about the plot in all of these games? I mentioned in my prior video that Fear is one of my favorite shooters of all time, and that stands even if the plot is mostly stupid garbage. I suppose it doesn't help that the big twist is revealed in the opening cutscenes if you have two brain cells to rub together, meaning you spend the next 10 hours ruminating about the game's heavily incest-driven plot. And then you kill Fettel at the end of Fear only for him to show up an hour later perfectly fine. Guy's a psychic genius, and the best he could come up with for his reintroduction was,
"You killed me. I didn't like that."
While I've played Fear at least a dozen times all the way through since it came out, I've only played Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate probably once to completion each, and that was way back at launch. When I mentioned that Fear runs with problems on modern hardware, Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate are a whole other bag of technical nightmares. I was actually afraid I'd have to cut the video short because Extraction Point on day one of recording hard crashed my Steam Deck twice for seemingly no reason. Also, like Fear, the game's default controls don't have slow-mo bound for some stupid reason. No worries, it's just the most important feature of the game. Also, Extraction Point doesn't have widescreen support unless you go in and manually fondle the settings. The most annoying hurdle I had to deal with in Extraction Point is the physics system, which is halfway broken. As I said in prior videos, Fear's engine issues on modern hardware tends to manifest as physics issues from how objects move to how they are animated. This wasn't a pressing issue in Fear because there weren't a lot of interactive physics objects. I had a few instances where I was forced to reload where a physics object was kicked in front of the only door I could go through, and progress just froze there. That being said, I really recommend Extraction Point, and if you played through Fear, you should expect to have your ass kicked. A lot. As with Fear, I played Extraction Point on hard mode, and goddamn did I die a lot more here. It took me a while to realize what was happening, and I've marked down the deep boost in difficulty to 2 factors. First, levels are a lot more complicated than the mostly linear corridors of the base game, and Fear's AI works best when it has options on how to approach the player from more than one angle. Second, individual fights this time around tend to include more enemies, and some areas are just straight up endurance tests. I died so much more in Extraction Point than in Fear Standard. The only disappointment in the combat is in the boss encounters, and they suck. It's almost comical how the game teases your first encounter with the big mechs, and then you end up killing it without taking a scratch of damage because it gets caught up in the doorway. In fact, I didn't die once on a boss fight, including a particularly lazy moment later on when the game just daisy-chains 3 mechs in a row. Thankfully, you'll have plenty of encounters with the big padded soldiers, now also sporting shields and miniguns, who, while not bosses, will still give you a run for your money. I love these fights. High intensity, high action, big shootouts. I used grenades far more in Extraction Point than I did in Fear Standard. There are 2 new weapons in Extraction Point, the laser carbine and the minigun. You also have access to mini turrets, which are more useful as a distraction during the prolonged endurance scenes than as an offensive or defensive weapon. The laser carbine is a beautiful weapon, and whoever created it is a gosh darn genius. The minigun is also fine for that who cares about ammunition rampage. Upgrades are a lot easier to find in Extraction Point because they're mostly right out in the open. It's obvious the team put its efforts into making the levels more intricate, complicated, and interesting during gunfights because Extraction Point all but gets rid of Fear's pointless dead-end corridors. Health and reflex boosters are mostly just sitting out on your normal path this time around. Maybe the team realized that they are far more important in the expansion than they were in the base game. Good luck getting through this on hard with 100 health. The doors in the game suck, and I may be misremembering, but I don't recall the doors in Fear shutting on their own. It is such a pain in the ass to constantly have to reopen the door you're using as cover as it shuts itself a few seconds later, often with you standing right in the doorway. The AI still has massive problems navigating doors, but that's just game development. As I've already mentioned, Fear Extraction Point is a great follow-up to the original Fear, even if it has no bearing on the overall story. The good news with Fear is that if you pick it up on Good Old Games or the big-ass package on Steam, you're going to get Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate either way. Just be aware that if you're playing it on Steam Deck, you're going to have some technical problems, and if you're playing it on PC, you're going to have a lot of technical problems. The Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate do not hold up well mechanically, although once I got past that initial first hour or two, they kind of worked fine. Check it out. Like and subscribe for more crap on deck.